Hey Guardians! Bungie recently changed a lot of exotic armor functionality, and one that really caught my eye was the Icefall Mantle. I loved this exotic when it first came out back in Beyond Light, and in theory, it was really cool. It always gave me the unkillable, tanky power fantasy I long for when I'm playing the Titan, but it never really met the mark before now. But the changes made to it, as well as the episode being heavily focused on Stasis, have really made it fun to use. So I decided to make a build centered around it. Let's dive in! Usually I would wait for the armor breakdown, however it's important to cover this exotic first, as it rolls into so many other aspects of this build, and that is none other than Icefall Mantle. This exotic replaces your class ability with a Stasis energy burst. The burst does the following actively. Sends out stasis energy that freezes targets around you, and grants you your current max stacks of frost armor. Passively, it does the following. Rapid stasis kills grant you frost armor, and gaining frost armor heals you. Meaning, when you use your class ability, you heal for gaining your max stacks of frost armor. If your max stacks is 5, you heal as if you gained 5 frost armor all at once. This isn't super earth shattering, or should I say ice shattering? But the extra heal can be a nice panic button while adding an insane amount of damage resistance to your Guardian. The only drawback to this is that you have to have your Stasis super equipped for this to work. But that's okay, because I have a remedy for Glacial Quake not being the world's greatest damage super in the entire world in this build as well. I know this may come as a shock to you, but you're going to have to take off your Prismatic subclass for this. No! We're actually going to be using the Stasis subclass. So to start, we're going to jump in with our abilities, aspects, and fragments. For our first ability, we're going to use Rally Barricade as it has the shortest cooldown. There's literally no reason for us using it other than that. If you want to use Towering Barricade, feel free. You can use whatever boost you would prefer. And then our only melee choice is Shiver Strike. I will say that this was changed recently, and if for nothing else, launching enemies across the room is probably the most fun I've ever had in Destiny, being a Titan. It can also be used for movement techniques, as the cooldown after you, quote, whiff the melee was reduced drastically. And for our grenade, I chose Glacial Grenade. And although you can swap this out for whatever you want, with Hail the Storm for the seasonal artifact this season, it makes a great ad clear grenade. Moving on to our aspects next, the first one we chose is Diamond Lance. This is created by killing targets with stasis abilities and or stasis weapons. Slamming the lance into the ground refreshes your frost armor timer and freezes targets in an area around you. This also heals us due to our exotic of choice, Icefall Mantle. Additionally, if you have no stacks of frost armor, this will add 2 stacks immediately. If you're more of a throw it kind of guy, it's going to freeze the targets that you throw it at, and killing those frozen targets will create shards, and in turn, you guessed it, it will heal us due to our exotic of choice. Our second aspect is Tectonic Harvest. This one's pretty simple, but shattering a crystal or frozen target creates stasis shards. And again, these shards are important to us because of Icefall Mantle. We're getting back melee energy, frost armor, and also heals from this. Next up are our fragments. Our first choice is Whisper of Rime. This increases our maximum stacks and duration of our frost armor. This allows us to heal for more when using our class ability and increase our damage resistance by 36% more when we are at 8 times frost armor. Next is Whisper of Fissures. This increases the damage and the size of the burst when destroying a crystal or a frozen target. When you pair this with Hail the Storm from the seasonal mod, this really puts in work clearing out rooms of enemies. Next is Whisper of Refraction. Defeating slowed or frozen targets gives you class ability energy. This continues to feed into our gameplay loop of keeping frozen armor maxed at all times. Next is Whisper of Conduction, because I'm lazy and then the shards will track to me, and you get a nice little stat boost out of it as well. And finally, Whisper of Bonds. You'll be freezing so many enemies that this is going to create a ton of orbs of power for you and your fire team. This is a flex spot, so you can kind of use whatever you'd like here if you want to toy around with the build. And now we're going to check out the seasonal episodal mods. I don't know what you want to call them. But first up is one with the frost. This isn't really necessary, it's just nice to have. Next is Wind Chill. Rapid stasis weapon kills give us frost armor and in turn heal us. Crystalline Converter. Fill the bar by collecting Stasis shards, which we're making a ton of, by the way, and then you melee once it's full to create a bunch of crystals post-melee. One I referenced many times earlier in the video is Hail the Storm. Shattering crystals releases shards of ice that slow targets, and again, this continues to feed into our keeping targets frozen loop and granting us frost armor passively when defeating those targets that end up frozen. Armor of Aramis, because why not? Brain Freeze, also because why not? But seriously, emitting a fog that slows targets helps our gameplay loop. And then finally, Served Cold, another way for us to keep up our class ability just by collecting Stasis shards. As with all of my build videos, I'm going to just put the correct mod slots up on the screen for you here to look at. Feel free to change these as needed, especially with surges and resists, depending on what you need for your circumstances. And our last portion is weapon suggestions. The first weapon I would suggest is Agar Scepter for this particular build. I know not everyone has this, but you can pick this up from the Monument of Lost Light, and then try and get the Catalyst if you can, because it makes the gun that much better and allows you to consume your super. Agar Scepter is great at chain freezing swarms of enemies. Also, those frozen enemies are going to continue to create more stasis shards for us, so that means more healing. It also makes a great use of the super, as I mentioned, in case you need some boss damage and Glacial Quake's not working for you. Agar Scepter does use special ammo, so you need to be mindful of how much ammo you're consuming while using it. Also, it's not really required, but I would highly recommend it for this build. Moving on to our energy slot, any weapon with Strategist can pair really well with this build, as we're trying to keep our class ability up as much as possible. I would recommend the new dungeon auto, but you know, weight gate is going on / potentially being fixed, who knows. But the new dungeon auto rifle VS Pyro Electric Propellant is an excellent choice when paired with its origin trait, Bray Legacy. And then for your heavy slot, any weapon that you feel comfortable dealing damage with is going to be good here. Obviously, heavy grenade launchers are the flavor of this particular episode. If possible, try to use a stasis heavy so that you can match your surges with the Agar Scepter and get a damage bonus on both weapons. So that about wraps up our super tanky Stasis Titan. My son and I have been using it quite a bit lately, so I hope that you enjoy it as well. If you found this video helpful or learned something new, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more Destiny 2 content. If you've got some builds that you'd like to share, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below. If you'd like to watch some raids or other Destiny 2 content live, come hang out with me on Twitch most Wednesdays and Fridays starting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I mean, I am a dad and I have a job, so sometimes that gets bucked. I'll include my Twitch link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.